Before Jesus, before Osiris, there was Inanna, the Queen of Heaven and Earth, worshipped in the years 4000 to 3100 BCE and beyond. She was a Sumerian goddess whose story was buried for millennia, a goddess loved and cherished by the masses. But why then was this adored goddess betrayed? Could the ancient myth of the descent of Inanna hold the key to unlocking your own spiritual rebirth? And is there a reason it has been reformated and relabeled across the eons of time? In the cradle of civilization, nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, rose the mighty city of Uruk. Here in the 4th millennium BC, a goddess reigned supreme. Her name was Inanna, known as the Queen of Heaven and Earth. Inanna was a force of nature. She was the goddess of love and war, of fertility and storms, of passion and justice. Her symbols, etched in clay and stone, tell a tale of a complex deity. The lion, representing her fierce strength, the dove, her gentle compassion, and the 8-pointed star, her celestial dominion. Samuel Noah Kramer, the renowned Sumerologist, called her the most important female deity in the Sumerian pantheon. Her influence permeated every aspect of their lives. Inanna's power was not confined to the earthly realm. She ruled from her magnificent temple in Uruk, a towering ziggurat that reached towards the heavens. This was the Inanna, the house of heaven, where priests and priestesses served her every whim. From her celestial abode, Inanna bestowed blessings upon her people. She ensured fertile lands, abundant harvests, and victory in battle. But her divine court was not without its drama. Inanna interacted with a vast array of gods and goddesses. Enki, the god of wisdom, was her sometimes ally, sometimes rival. Nanna, the moon god, was her father, Utu, the sun god, her brother. Their relationships were complex, filled with both love and conflict, much like the human world itself. But Inanna was no one-dimensional deity. She was a goddess of paradoxes, a fierce warrior who reveled in love, a powerful ruler who embraced her femininity, a bringer of life who wasn't afraid to unleash destruction. This complexity, this embrace of duality, made her both fascinating and fearsome. She was a force to be reckoned with, a goddess who defied easy categorization. Yet as centuries passed, Inanna's story began to fade. Her worship was suppressed, her temples fell into ruin. Why? Was she simply a victim of changing times, or was there something more sinister at play? Some scholars suggest that Inanna's independent spirit, her unapologetic sexuality, and her undeniable power threatened the rising patriarchal order. A goddess who could command armies and negotiate with gods was perhaps too much for a world that sought to confine women to the domestic sphere. Was Inanna's story intentionally buried? Was her power deliberately diminished? These questions linger, adding another layer of intrigue to her already captivating myth. But to understand the full scope of Inanna's legacy, we must follow her on her most perilous journey, her descent into the underworld. Driven by a desire only a goddess could possess, Inanna sets out on a journey to the land of no return, Kur, the Sumerian underworld. Her goal? To visit her sister Ereshkigal, the Queen of the Dead. But this is no mere social call. To reach Ereshkigal's domain, Inanna must pass through 7 gates, each guarded by a fearsome gatekeeper. At each gate, she is forced to relinquish a symbol of her power, a piece of her earthly identity, and a symbol of her heavenly power. With each gate, Inanna is stripped bare, both literally and metaphorically. Her crown, her jewels, her weapons, all are surrendered as she descends deeper into the darkness. This stripping away, this gradual descent, is powerfully described in the ancient Sumerian texts. Diane Wolkstein and Samuel Noah Kramer, in their masterful translation of Inanna, Queen of Heaven and Earth, paint a vivid picture of this transformative journey. By the 7th gate, Inanna is stripped of all earthly possessions, all outward signs of her power. She is utterly vulnerable, a stark contrast to the mighty Queen of Heaven who first embarked on this journey. Finally, Inanna stands before her sister, Ereshkigal. But this is no joyful reunion. Ereshkigal, consumed by grief and resentment, sees Inanna's arrival as an intrusion, a challenge to her authority. With a single glance, Ereshkigal strikes Inanna dead, turning her into a corpse, hanging her lifeless body on a hook. The Queen of Heaven, the mighty Inanna, is reduced to nothing. Her journey into the underworld has reached its tragic climax. But is this truly the end? Back in the world above, Inanna's faithful servant Ninshubur seeks help from Enki, the wise and cunning god. Enki, moved by compassion, creates two magical beings. These beings, imbued with the power of life, infiltrate Ereshkigal's domain. They find the queen of the underworld writhing in agony, afflicted by the pains of childbirth. Through their empathy and compassion, they gain Ereshkigal's trust. Seizing this opportunity, they plead for Inanna's release. Ereshkigal, moved by their words and her own vulnerability, agrees to revive Inanna. But there's a catch. Inanna cannot leave the underworld alone. She must choose someone to take her place. Inanna is reborn, but her journey has forever changed her. The experience of death and resurrection has etched itself onto her soul, and as she emerges from the depths of Kur, she carries with her a profound understanding of life's fragility and the cyclical nature of existence. But Inanna's return to the world above is not without consequence. Who will she choose to take her place in the underworld? And what will this sacrifice mean for the balance of the cosmos? Inanna's descent through the seven gates wasn't just a physical journey, it was a stripping away of her ego, her attachments, her worldly identity. Each item she removes holds a deeper meaning, a lesson for us even today. Her crown, the symbol of her queenship, represents our need to surrender our sense of control, our desire for power and dominance, especially over others and the world around us. In the underworld, all are equal before the face of death. Her necklace, adorned with precious stones, symbolizes our social connections, our attachments to the material world. To truly face our inner selves, we must let go of these external validations. Her breastplate, a symbol of protection and strength, represents our defenses, the walls we build around our hearts. True vulnerability requires us to shed these defenses and face our fears with an open heart. Her golden ring, a mark of wealth and status, symbolizes our attachment to material possessions. In the underworld, riches hold no sway, reminding us that true value lies within. Her measuring rod and line, tools of order and structure, represent our need for control, our desire to impose our will on the world. In the face of the unknown, we must relinquish this need and embrace the chaos of the underworld. Her robe, a symbol of beauty and outward adornment, represents our concern with appearances, our obsession with the superficial. In the realm of death, true beauty lies in the essence of the soul. Finally, her pala, a scepter, a symbol of her authority and personal power, is surrendered. This represents the ultimate act of surrender, the complete relinquishment of the ego. Stripped of all worldly trappings, Inanna stands naked and vulnerable, yet paradoxically more powerful than ever before. She has faced her fears, shed her attachments, and embraced the darkness within. This is the true meaning of the descent, a journey of self-discovery, a stripping away of the illusions that bind us, and a confrontation with the deepest truth of our being. Now, purified and transformed, Inanna is ready to face her sister, the Queen of the Dead. But what awaits her in the depths of the underworld? And what lessons can we learn from her encounter with the forces of darkness? Inanna's story is not unique. Throughout history, cultures across the globe have told stories of gods and goddesses who die and are reborn. Osiris in Egypt, Dionysus in Greece, and even Jesus in Christianity share this archetypal theme. This motif of death and resurrection speaks to a deep truth about the human experience, the cyclical nature of life, the inevitability of loss, and the possibility of renewal. Just as these deities descended into the darkness and emerged transformed, we too can face our own inner darkness and emerge with a renewed sense of purpose and meaning. But there's a darker side to Inanna's story, a hidden conspiracy that challenges our understanding of the gods and their motivations. Was Inanna's descent a voluntary act, or was she betrayed by those she trusted most? Enki, the god of wisdom, seemingly Inanna's ally, was the one who provided her with the instructions for entering Kur. He knew the dangers, the trials she would face. Was this an act of genuine concern, or a calculated move to eliminate a potential rival? Inanna's power and ambition were undeniable. She challenged the status quo, a female deity asserting her authority in a male-dominated pantheon. Did this inspire envy, even fear, among her fellow gods? During her ordeal, few gods came to Inanna's aid. Their absence is deafening. Was this a deliberate act of abandonment, a silent agreement to let her fall? And upon her return, Inanna is forced to make an impossible choice, to condemn another to take her place in the underworld. Was this a final act of manipulation, a cruel reminder of her place in the cosmic hierarchy? This fringe theory, while controversial, offers a compelling alternative reading of the myth. It raises questions about the nature of power, the potential for betrayal even among the gods, and the suppression of feminine power throughout history. Whether a victim of circumstance or a pawn in a divine game, Inanna's story remains a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. She faced the darkness, endured unimaginable suffering, and emerged transformed. Her journey inspires us to confront our own inner demons, challenge the forces that seek to diminish us, and reclaim our own power. But how can we, mere mortals, emulate Inanna's descent and achieve our own spiritual rebirth? Inanna's story doesn't end in the underworld. It's a tale of rebirth, of reclaiming power, of finding light in the darkest depths. And it's a journey we can all undertake. The ancient Sumerians practiced a ritual known as the katabatic rite, a symbolic descent into the underworld. It's a powerful tool for self-discovery, a way to confront our shadows and emerge transformed. This ritual involves a symbolic stripping away of our attachments, our ego, our limiting beliefs. It's a journey into the depths of our being where we confront our fears and embrace our vulnerability. Through this process of symbolic death, we create space for rebirth, for renewal, for a deeper connection to our true selves. This is not a ritual to be undertaken lightly. It requires careful preparation, a clear intention, and a willingness to face the unknown. But the rewards can be profound. Join us next time for the epic conclusion of Inanna's descent as we discover who it was that betrayed Inanna and who must pay the price for her return.
The goddess Inanna, she of the radiant light, turned her gaze from the shimmering heavens to the silent depths below. The great above, her rightful domain, shimmered with celestial brilliance. Yet the mysteries of the great below called to her adventurous spirit. She who reigned as queen of heaven, mistress of life and fertility, resolved to journey into the land of shadows, the realm of the dead. Leaving behind the golden temples of Uruk, Bad-Tabira, Zabalam, Adab, Nippur, Kish, and Akkad, Inanna gathered the seven potent Mi, the divine powers that radiated her authority. Each Mi she grasped, a tangible symbol of her might. With these, she adorned herself in regal splendor, the magnificent Shugura, crown of the steppe, upon her brow, her raven hair, a dark cascade across her forehead, lapis lazuli beads, a vibrant necklace against her skin, a shimmering double strand gracing her breast, and the royal robes, a garment of power draping her form. Her eyes, lined with kohl, bore the inscription, "Let him come, let him come." The breastplate, "Come, man, come," adorned her chest, a challenge and an allure. A golden ring encircled her wrist, and in her hand she clasped the lapis measuring rod and line, tools of a queen and a judge. Thus prepared, Inanna embarked upon her perilous descent, her loyal servant Ninshubur at her side. The gates of the underworld loomed before her, formidable and unyielding. Inanna pounded upon them, her voice echoing through the desolate silence. "Inanna, open your gates, Neti, gatekeeper of the Kur. It is I, Inanna, Queen of Heaven, who demands entry." Neti, guardian of the realm of shadows, emerged from the gloom. Who are you? Who dares disturb the silence of the dead? I am Inanna, Queen of Heaven, on a journey to the east. If you are indeed Inanna, why tread the path from which no traveler returns? I come to mourn my sister, Ereshkigal. Her husband, Gugalana, the bull of heaven, has perished. I seek to honor him and partake in the funeral rites. Neti, unconvinced, retreated into the depths to consult with his queen. He found Ereshkigal, the queen of the underworld, upon her obsidian throne, her face etched with grief and fury. My queen, a goddess of immense power, stands at the gates. She is adorned with the symbols of her divinity, and she demands entry. Ereshkigal, consumed by rage and suspicion, slammed her fist upon her throne. Let her enter, but strip her of her power. One by one, remove her adornments, her symbols of authority. Let her be humbled before she faces me. Neti obeyed. At each of the 7 gates, Inanna was forced to relinquish a piece of herself, her crown, her necklace, her breastplate, her ring, her measuring rod and line, and finally, her royal robes. Naked and vulnerable, she was brought before Ereshkigal. The queen of the underworld rose from her throne, her eyes burning with hatred. Inanna, stripped of her power, could only stand before her, defenseless. The Anuna, the judges of the underworld, surrounded her, their voices a chorus of condemnation. Ereshkigal fixed Inanna with a deathly glare, her words a venomous curse. With a single touch, she transformed Inanna into a lifeless corpse, a piece of rotting flesh, and hung her upon a hook. Enki, wise and compassionate, listened to Ninshuber's desperate plea. Enki, what has become of Inanna? From beneath his fingernails, he created 2 beings, neither male nor female, the Kurgara and the Galatur. He bestowed upon them the food of life and the water of life, and sent them to the underworld. The Kurgara and the Galatur slipped through the gates of the underworld, unnoticed like flies. They found Ereshkigal writhing in pain, her cries echoing through the desolate halls. They mimicked her moans, offering their empathy. Ereshkigal, touched by their compassion, offered them a reward. They requested only the corpse that hung from the hook. Ereshkigal, bound by her word, granted their request. The Kurgara and the Galatur sprinkled the food of life and the water of life upon Inanna's lifeless form. Slowly, life returned to her eyes. Inanna, Queen of Heaven, had returned from the land of the dead.